Love and a happiness. Love and a happiness. Oh.
And good afternoon. You're listening to On the Couch with Dr. K. I am your hostess, Dr. K, here on 98.5 New Mix FM, the first bilingual station of the Mid-South, heard all around the world. Yay!
Oh, yes.
Yay!
Hear that?
Wow, we're almost at the end of this year, and today we have a great topic that is very appropriate for ending the year and moving into the new year. And we have some absolutely fabulous people who will be in here helping us to give advice, and I'll let them introduce themselves in just a few minutes. But our topic for today is Happy New You. Why you need to change and how to do it. Because a lot of times we tell people what they need to do, but we don't give them the specific steps in order to do it. We don't tell them how they need to do it.
Oh, I'm going to be paying attention to this.
Well, there is not a magic wand.
Oh,
I will tell you that.
I know there's not a magic
There's
wand.
not a magic wand. Change takes a lot of dedication, and sometimes it takes a lot of time.
Oh, believe me, I've got dedication and time. So.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure our listeners are going to be looking forward to figuring out the best way to make this year go.
Definitely. So Happy New You. Let's get right into looking at one of our fabulous guests for this afternoon. He is an author. He has written a book here, and it's very nice. The Hand I Was Dealt. Failure Doesn't Have to Be Final by Issac Jones. And on the back, he asks the question, what if you could still win with a bad hand? And you know, a lot of us, sometimes we were dealt a bad hand in life, or so we think that has occurred. And so he's going to tell us about this and then introduce himself. So Mr. Issac Jones, introduce yourself, sir. Yay!
Glad to be
All
here.
right, we're so glad to have you.
Yeah, the book was originally put together by the advice of a pastor of mine at Golden Gate Church.
Okay.
And I met him during a men's conference, and I just thought to strike up a conversation with him about, about my situation, about things that I had experienced. And so his advice to me was, man, put that in a book, put that together, and then let me, we'll sit down and we'll discuss it. And so, and that's what I did. In the process, this book goes through my earlier challenges in life, as far as going to 12 schools in 13 years, same city, prior to graduating. Dropped out in the 10th grade. When I finally went back and graduated, I had a 1.2 grade point average.
Wow.
And so as a result of that, it kind of put me, I guess, in unequal footing compared to my peers. And so the book goes through the process of what it took me to go from one mindset, and when that shift took place, to implement another mindset, which changed my outcome and my life.
Wow. And I know you are telling the truth because we've worked together before, and you were always so on point and so willing to help and just full of knowledge. And so we're going to let you talk more as we go through about the book and tell people specifically a little bit more about your situation and how you made that change. And now we have Dr. Ken. Yay! So happy to have you, sir. So glad you came to sit on the couch with us again today. We're going to let you get all situated and introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and why you are here, because I know you had a great response to one segment of the show. We have toward the middle of the show, we go into Dr. K's yays and nays. And I had a wonderful gentleman to send me really a question that is heavy on his heart, and we will get to that in just a few minutes, but I know you're specifically here to speak to that one. So thank you so much for being here, Dr. Ken, and introduce yourself and tell us why you're here, and you're looking so gorgeous today. We appreciate that, sir.
Dr. Ken. I am Dr. Ken, life coach for life on Dr. Ken, and I'm here just to share a little bit about life and what God has in store for all of us if we just obey the guidelines.
All right, all right. Thank you so much. And I always see the beautiful pictures of you and your beautiful wife on Facebook. So thank you for putting those on, giving us something nice and pretty to look at. We appreciate that.
You're so kind. Thank you.
So, how are you feeling today, Felix Cordova?
No, I'm feeling good.
You're
I'm
feeling
good today.
Really?
Well, I'm a little disappointed. The weather started to get cold, so I was enjoying the warm weather.
Really? See, I was disappointed in the other direction.
You see, I love the heat. I like it when it's hot and humid. That's what
I like it when it is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, okay.
So winter time would mean winter weather.
Well, I was in Puerto Rico a couple of weeks ago, so I mean, it was
Are you trying to make me feel jealous?
Yeah, no, I mean, the water temperature was 81, so.
Wow. Be quiet. We're not talking to you anymore.
I'm just testing to see how much you like that.
I know. And so how are you today, my super duper intelligent intern, Stanley Shotwell II? Great, thank you. I love your haircut. Very nice. Let them see your hair. Turn. Yay, look at this haircut, and it's so nice. Yay. That's it. So today I was talking with Mr. Jones and just kind of going through what we do here at On the Couch with Dr. K. So, of course, we let everyone introduce themselves, and then we get into our stats and facts, which are always found by my super duper intelligent intern, Stanley Shotwell II. And then from there, we get a chance and we actually go into our 4-point star. And then we have what is really fun, Dr. K's Yays and Nays, and that's where we give advice specifically to those people who have written in or put something on Facebook asking for the answer to a particular dilemma. Lastly, we have what we call tonight's technique, when we actually apply some techniques to help you reach some goals that you may decide to put in place as a result of our conversation. And then lastly, we give everybody 10 seconds to shine right at the end of the program, and hopefully nobody will have any shameless plugs, because I've gotten, I know, a good $200,000 just off of shameless plugs. So I'm going to let you start off, Mr. Jones, because I know, according to your book and your story, you had to reinvent yourself.
Exactly.
So tell us why you had to do that and how you did it.
The main thing that inspired me to make a drastic change was, a lot of times people say that it has to be like a life emergency to come up or something really traumatic. And in my situation, that's pretty much what happened.
Okay.
When I looked at my life and I looked at what I had achieved at a certain point, and I realized that it was time for a change.
Okay.
And actually what brought about that change was I worked at this company, and at that point my attitude towards things was I really didn't care.
Okay.
And so I had accumulated a lot of absences and tardies at this job. And the manager came in one day. I was late. He came in and started talking to me. He said, Isaac, come here for a second. Now, at that point, he could have fired me. But he called me in, and he said, look, have a seat. And I sat down, and he said, what's going on? What do you want out of life? And at that point, he was like the first guy ever to ask me that question. Not having a male role model or, a father figure, he kind of was the first one who stepped in and kind of started asking me those real serious questions. And behind that topic of what I actually wanted out of life, I gave him a goal. He assisted me with putting that goal together and actually took me through the process of accomplishing that goal. And so at that point I was still kind of holding on to that old mindset. I was like a strainer. But he was trying his best to pour information to me, but because I had all these holes in my foundation, I didn't catch a hold of it.
Okay.
I caught some of it, but it took me to a different level from that point. And it was just, through those stages, it really assisted me in kind of having, getting on the right path. And so from that situation, I started so I went to a church,
Okay.
like I said, and the preacher hit on the same thing. Take your foundation that you have, put it together, and make something out of it. And at that point, I started taking notes. And behind me taking those notes, I just started implementing things. And as I implemented things, it started changing my mindset. And I asked myself this question too. It's like, what cab did you catch? And cab stands for an acronym, right? And the acronym, the first letter C stands for cognitive. And that cognitive part is, how we think.
Right.
And behind how we think, there comes the letter A. And the A stands for affective. Now, that affective area is how we feel.
Right.
So the first thing was how I thought. The second thing rolled into how I felt. And then that B stands for behavior.
Okay. Yes.
And so when I put the cognitive and thought a certain way, the affective, and made me feel a certain way, and the behavior made me behave a certain way.
Right.
And so once I started lining those things up and looking at the results of them, it kind of made me realize that it was really on me. You know what I mean? And it boiled down to how far was I willing to go, how much was I willing to sacrifice, and how much would I persevere into making these certain things happen. And so once I realized that I could achieve success in one area, I started using that same process and applying those things to other areas.
Oh, wow. Are you sure you don't have a degree in psychology? Because that is we talk about how your thoughts affect your feelings,
That's
which
absolutely
will
right.
then affect your behavior.
That's right.
And I mean, case in point, you can have two people who walk into the very same situation. Everybody's laughing.
Yes.
One person thinks, oh, they told a funny joke.
Yeah.
So then they feel happy, and their behavior is to laugh as well.
Right.
Another person walks into a room, hears everybody laughing. They think in their heads, they're laughing at me. They feel embarrassed, and so their behavior is to run out of the room. So you're so right when you're saying that the way you think will affect the way you feel, which will in cause affect the way you behave. And I also really liked your part about being like a strainer, and some of those things you caught and some you didn't, but it took you to another level. And I think that is so important, not only for people who are catching the information, but people who are pouring the information
Exactly.
into the vessel.
Exactly.
Because a lot of times you're like, man, they're not getting it, and you feel frustrated,
don't know the background.
but they don't
have
know
no
the
clue.
background.
They have no clue.
And they need to know that even though they're not catching it all, they're catching some of it,
Exactly.
which will take them to the next
Exactly.
level. So were you going to say something?
Oh, and another thing too is that one thing that I realized out of the whole process too is you have to know how to encourage yourself. Because a lot of times we will put a lot of energy and emphasis into others, making us feel like we're something, a whole.
Right.
And by knowing how to tap into those resources from, reading books or listening to encouraging music, or other avenues that you can find ways of changing the energy. And once you change that energy around, then it kind of gives you the mindset and the persistence to keep on going. Because
Right.
whenever you hit a little bump, you look within yourself to kind of get over that bump. You try to figure out ways how to reward yourself for accomplishments without
Right.
it coming from the outside.
Yes,
the
that
intrinsic motivation. Exactly.
motivation,
Exactly.
right.
So it's more so based on intrinsic versus extrinsic. And so that intrinsic you can control. You
Right.
know, so you have to focus on what you can control.
Very
You
true.
know,
That's
so
good.
that's what I did.
Very, very true. Thank you. And I mean, you hit on a lot of
Yes,
things that
yes.
people really, really need to hear, because a lot of our children, especially, are extrinsically motivated. And a lot of times when you're talking to people who have poor behavior or criminal behavior, abusive behavior, one of the telltale signs is being extrinsically motivated. They believe that outside forces will predict their behavior or
Yes.
make them act in a certain way.
Absolutely.
Oh, she made me mad. The
Right.
devil made me
Yes.
do
Right,
it. Or,
right,
my mama did this, therefore,
Right.
I act this way, and they
Right.
don't look
Right.
to the inside. So I like
Yeah.
that. Thank you. So, Dr. Ken.
I want to talk about that.
Okay, go right ahead. Go right ahead. Yes.
We're going to talk about the new, but that sounds like an awesome book. I have to get one before I leave. The Bible itself even talks about how death and life is in the power of the tongue. And it talks about
Exactly.
also how, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And I was reading a book once by Larry Burkett, and he talks about some of the similarities that millionaires and billionaires have in common. And it kind of reminded me of your book, how they used to think one way, and they began to perceive themselves to be different than what other people were saying they were, and the rest is history, pretty much. They began to change their thought process, and with that thought process also going to come changing your company.
Exactly.
So you don't want to be around this negative energy.
Exactly.
And that, I guess we can bounce right on into, our New Year thing. That's one of the things. I don't do resolutions, but I do drop off some folk. I leave them in the
I resolve to leave you alone.
Exactly.
And you know what? It was it's also three things that I think about too that I had to get a grips on as well. And I call them the three deadly D's. Oh. And that's the first one is diversion. And anytime you're trying to make a shift or a change, there's always something trying to throw you off. So the key is just to realize what's happening, but then stay focused on what you're doing. And the next one I look at is discouragement. That's what the second D stands for. And that's when I was talking about you have to figure out a way how to keep yourself encouraged. Because a lot of times there are a lot of people around you who don't have the same opinion or views of you that you have in yourself. So it's up to you to just kind of keep that foundation strong. And the next one is delay. A lot of times, we may put off things and say, well, I'll do it when I get to it, or I'll do it when I feel like it, or so just having a time frame is really important. So
that is very, you're saying a lot, especially the diversions and the delays, and that is, and when you hear people talk about why they didn't do something, people who are not succeeding, they refer to those. I was gonna do it, but this diversion. I'm gonna get to it really soon. Procrastination or delay, and so those things are so important, and they are dangerous.
Exactly, and it helps you prioritize as well. And with me dealing with a lot of couples, and I encourage them to prioritize. You run talking about you looking for your Boaz. I think we talked about the last time I was on the show, and you're not even Ruth yet.
Exactly.
Try to get your priorities. You need to have those things in order.
Right.
Because one of the things my bishop, Dr. Sidney P. Malone, talks about, that two halves don't make a whole. I don't care how you come together with all your cuteness and fineness. It just don't make a whole like that.
That's exactly right.
I'm just saying, keep working on you.
Exactly.
Keep working on you. It sounds like
I thought you meant like keep working on your hair.
Your hair on point. Your shape on everything. What about that other stuff?
That's true.
Internal
Internal stuff.
I can't believe it.
It's on point.
Yeah, that is so true. And I want to speak more about that internal development because I think women now are more gorgeous than they've ever been.
I agree.
You can walk in the middle of the street and see a stunner because, as Tyra Banks said, she said, plastic surgery, contacts, weave, and makeup, that's the equalizer.
It is.
So, you can see a lot of physically beautiful, beautiful people, but internally they're so broken.
They are.
Right.
So broken and sometimes so underdeveloped.
Right.
Because they haven't struggled. And at least I know back when I was growing up, if you were beautiful, you didn't have to do anything other than be beautiful. Well, I wasn't beautiful, so I had to develop my personality. Your mom and your daddy always think you're beautiful, but you know what I'm saying? That don't count. Not in junior high school. You want that 7th grade knucklehead boy that's in sped to think you're cute for whatever reason. But what I'm saying is, you see these people, men and women, who have been beautiful, and people let them get by with things.
Exactly.
They don't give them the chance to develop their personalities. And what happens is they get to be 47, 42, and they have to make that change that you're talking about.
Exactly.
And that is very difficult to do in your 40s.
It is.
Much easier to do in your 20s. And we'll talk about that a little bit in our stats and facts. But you don't want to be, 40s or even 50s, because some people can keep it together through the 40s. But you might get on over to your 50s, where even if it is perfectly together, it's still older than other people on the shelf. You have to start developing that personality, that character.
Yes,
And at
yes.
50, that's not when you want to start doing that.
It's not. It's
That's
not.
that's
It's
that's
not.
really that's
It's
not a good look.
That's that age of reflection we talked
Yes.
about. At 50,
Right.
you'll be reflecting on how much you
That's true.
accomplished.
Right,
You know, 50
exactly.
years before. And now you have to, no, that's a terrible time to start.
I have a really, really good friend, Van Jones, who is one of the commentators on CNN, and he said, which made me just go like, oh, he said, you know what? We're at the point now where we're done writing our resumes. Now we're writing our obituaries. Because there comes a
like that.
time
That's deep.
when you're constantly building. You're building your
Yes.
resume,
Yes.
but then after a while you've made all of those accomplishments. You've done all those things. Now we're talking about character building and how people are going to remember you and what you're going to leave behind, which would be your obituary.
Yes.
And
Yes.
he said
good.
something I'd been thinking about a lot, because when you go in and you read people's obituaries, sometimes they'll say like they were born, they worked here, they went to church there, and then they died.
Right.
And I was like, ugh, I do not want mine to be like that.
Absolutely.
Yes, Mr.
And you know
Jones.
what? Another thing too that helps is there's a guy named Friedrich Nietzsche who talks about finding your why. You know, he has a quote. He says, "If we have our own why in life, we can almost surely get along with almost any how." And the thing about it is that once we know that how, a lot of things that hold us back, we look for solutions on how to get past those things.
Right.
But if we don't know, then we look for reasons. You know, and so I guess knowing your why taps into kind of adjusting that obituary to where it's like you're leaving a legacy.
Yes.
You know,
Why
so
am I
that's the
doing
way I
this?
see it. Exactly.
I really like that, because you hear, let's say, mothers, and they'll say, well, why are you out here working so hard for my kids? And they
Right.
don't care what they have to do, dig ditches, whatever. They're like,
exactly.
this is for my kids. So
Right.
I agree with you.
Right.
Once you know your why,
Yes.
that eliminates all of those.
Your purpose. Know
Right.
your purpose.
Wow.
You have to know your
I
purpose.
really, really like that.
Wow.
So Robin Powell says, I don't believe in New Year's resolutions, but I do believe in fresh starts. I'm excited to take on this new year with positivity and happiness. I will not plan out my year, but I will be sure to continue to go down the path of being a better me full circle. Happy New Year. It's step your game up season. Just do it. So what do you have to say to that, Dr. Ken?
I think that's a good. Well, I don't do resolutions either. But of course, I'm big on with the way my lifestyle is that I do this probably 3-4 times a year just because of the way I am. And I think that's awesome that he's going to make some lifestyle changes and set some goals. And I know one of the things that I always do. We always start the year off with the consecration thing and the detoxing and doing some things to our bodies.
Okay.
And that always works for me. But of course, I don't just do it the first of the year. But whatever it is you do, stick to it. Be consistent in whatever it is, because if you're seeing the change, you need to stick to that change. That's pretty much what I'll say.
Okay, I like that. So, because I like hearing concrete things, and so it sounds like you kind of do like the mind, body, spirit approach. You
Absolutely.
cleanse your mind, you cleanse your
Absolutely.
spirit, you
Absolutely.
cleanse your body. I think that's good. You kind of start off with a fresh slate
Yes, pretty
at the
much.
beginning of every year. I like that.
That's what I do.
Good. What were you going to say to that, Mr. Jones?
You know, I think about a different level of focus.
Okay.
Yeah, you need a goal. That's for sure. But you also need to step your game up when it comes to focusing. Can I do one activity right quick?
Yes,
with you all?
please, go right ahead.
Okay, and the way this activity goes is I want you to tell him what you plan on doing when you leave here in one sentence. But you can't tell him. You have to spell it out. You'll spell the word out to him. That's how she'll communicate to you what she's going to do when she leaves here. Can you do that right quick? Spell the word out. Just spell it out.
EAT.
In a sentence. Give me one sentence.
Oh, like IAMGOINGTOEATDINNER.
Okay, let me ask you a question. When you did that, what was the major thing that you had to really do? Listen to what she just
I had
said.
to concentrate.
Concentrate and focus more, right?
Yes.
You had to focus on a totally different level than had she said out of her mouth, right?
Right.
So your goals should be the same way.
Right.
You got to look just that much deeper in setting those goals as you would as reading her words. So it's just a different level. You
Right.
got to just
Like that.
rethink things in a different way. And so you got to just the regular way of setting goals and what you hear people doing, dig a lot deeper and be more specific. You know, so I just with a young.
It sounds like you're saying, because a lot of people are great strategists.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yes,
talk about all
yes.
the strategies,
Yes.
but they don't talk about the tactics.
Tactics.
We're not
Exactly.
tactical.
Yeah.
And saying,
Yes.
look, okay, they may say, oh, we're just going to be happier in the new year, but then you have to write
A
down your
strategy.
tactic.
Had to have a strategy.
Absolutely.
How
Have to
you're
have a
going
strategy.
to do that every
Yeah, have to
day.
have a strategy.
I'm
Yes.
going to say to myself
Yes.
5 times,
Absolutely.
you know, I'm happy or whatever.
Yes.
So I like that.
Strategic.
Yeah,
Very
I
good.
really like that. And when I said a minute ago, I do whatever I do it more than just beginning of the year. I do it at least 2 times during the year because with my personality, now I'm big on personality puzzles and the horoscope and all the astrology and all that kind of stuff. Not that I
Right.
worship it, but I know my personality. Where it's built,
Yes.
I'm consistent.
Okay.
I used to be the person eat the same breakfast, eat the same lunch, eat the
Okay.
same dinner. So I had to. Did I tell you that on the radio?
Yes.
But anyway, but I had to learn to change that.
Right.
Right.
Because I grew up. This is the reason why I really got stuck like that. But the point is, when you begin to challenge your mind wakes up. It
Right.
begins
Yes.
to say,
Right.
"Whoa, you
Right.
did that." And
Exactly.
it feels good.
Exactly.
And I began
Yes.
to do something. I'm talking about 20 years ago.
Right.
And I just enjoy just, even at the house, do something different. I might.
Right.
I'm the person that change the furniture around at least once a month. But anyway, so because it feels good for me.
Exactly.
I'm
Right.
the person who got about 10, comforter sets, and I might change it twice a week.
Okay, right.
I'm talking too much.
Yeah.
No,
You tell them all, you're fine.
What I'm saying is that's
good.
refreshing for me.
Right.
And my wife had to get adjusted to it, and she's got it, but I found out she's worse. But in other areas.
Right.
But my point is, you have to do something
To get you to revamp your mind.
Absolutely. And it
I
feels
love it.
refreshing and
Right.
good,
Right.
Well, Ms. Marion Fryer says, and I like what she was specific. She said, I resolved to do a race every month
Yes.
and make better use of my kickboxing membership.
Mm-hmm.
I've already registered for races through March. So she's been very tactical. She's saying exactly what she's doing.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
she's planning, and she has already put it into action.
Good,
She says
good.
she's already registered for races
Right.
through March. I love that, man.
That's
Right.
good. And I would say
Right.
to her, go ahead and start tomorrow.
No, that's right.
I said don't wait till the first.
I read somewhere that your
Exactly.
mind will actually learn the bad habits, and that's what you have to train yourself to get out of.
Oh,
unlearn.
yes.
Exactly.
Yes,
Yeah.
for
'Cause
sure.
those mistakes happen, and they happen repeatedly because you're used to that pattern, and then you have to train yourself to get out of it.
Yes,
Right.
that is very true. One thing that I learned, I used to teach a class where I would teach students how to counsel other people. And the students I had the most problems with were students who had already been counselors,
Yeah.
but they didn't have formal training because they had learned so many, I hate to say bad habits.
Absolutely.
And so
Right.
now they had to do
Right.
double duty
Right.
because they had to unlearn the
Right.
bad habit
Absolutely.
and then
Absolutely.
learn the correct habit.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I agree with you. You really have to catch those habits before they become ingrained and then try to replace them with something else. Well, we're going to talk about our stats and facts because as I was reading them today, and they're always found by my super duper intelligent intern, Stanley Shotwell II. Thank you, Stanley. And I was laughing as I was reading them because we've already just touched on some of the things that will be illuminated as I read the stats and facts. So one thing I wanted Stanley to find for us is about New Year's resolutions. Who's making and keeping them? So these are the top 10 New Year's resolutions for 2015. Number one, can you guess? Number one resolution.
Losing weight.
Lose weight.
Yes, lose weight. Number two, getting organized. Number three, spend less, save more. That's my resolution every day. Number 4, enjoy life to the fullest. That's also my resolution every day. Number 5, stay fit and healthy. Number 6, learn something exciting. Number 7, quit smoking. Number 8, help others in their dreams. Number 9, fall in love. Number 10, spend more time with family. So those are the top 10 resolutions people are making for this year. Now, the percentage of Americans who usually make New Year's resolutions, 45%. Percent of Americans who infrequently make New Year's resolutions, 17%. Percent of Americans who absolutely never make New Year's resolutions, 38%. Percent of people who are successful in achieving their resolution, guess the percentage.
5%.
8%.
You're close.
People who have, the percentage of people who have infrequent success, 49%, that's true about half of us. People who never succeed and just fail on their resolution each year, 24%. So, those are, and that sounds about right, because unfortunately only a small percentage of us really hit that resolution. And maybe, it's different people each year. Maybe you're in the 10% this year, and I'm in the 10% next year, and you're in the 10% the year after that. So hopefully that's the way that goes. Let's talk about ages of people in terms of making resolutions and their success rate with it. The percent of people in their 20s who achieve their resolution each year, 39%.
I can kind of see that.
Especially if it's to lose weight. It's easier to lose weight in your 20s.
Absolutely. And you're still living at home.
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
That sounds a little personal. Percent of people over 50 who achieve their resolution each year, 14%.
Yes, bro.
So that delaying, that's
Yes.
deadly.
Yes.
Putting it
Yes.
off to next
Yes.
year, next year. You look
Yes.
around,
Yes.
and
Yes.
the years that you've already lived are bigger than the
Right.
years you have coming up.
Right.
So you need to get to it. Now, length of resolutions. Resolutions maintained through the first week, 75%.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's
I
like,
see
yeah,
that.
January
Right,
1st.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
they're out there and they're running around. Past 2 weeks, 71%. So good. On the 14th day, I'm still going to the gym. I'm at Lifetime Fitness. Yay. Past one month, now it drops down to 64%. And you start saying little things like, this gym is just too crowded.
Right.
It's too far.
Exactly. And then past 6 months, only 46% of us actually keep up with the resolution. But actually, this is better than I thought.
Yeah.
It's actually better than I thought because, a lot of us just promise so many things to ourselves
Right.
and other people,
Right.
and we just can't do it,
Right.
So those are our stats and facts for today. Thank you, Stanley. These were just comical. I appreciate it.
Come on.
They were really, really comical because, and this is stuff that we just need to know about ourselves as human beings and about the human race,
Right.
too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I do think that when you understand how people act in general, it makes you able to accept it more
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
and to
I see
work
you.
with people more.
Exactly.
That way when someone makes a promise or they say, well, I'm going to change. Well, you already know in your mind, well, only 75% of us really are going to do this.
Right.
So, you can support that person and help them
Yes.
if they
Yes.
fall off the wagon. You can say,
Yes.
you know what?
Absolutely.
It happens to at least 25% of us. It happens. And let's get back on the wagon and try to be successful. Randa, in the wing with Randa.
on the
How
couch
are
with
you
Dr. K.
today?
I'm doing marvelous.
Good. Now, we're talking about Happy New You why you need to change and how to do it. And Mr. Isaac Jones spent a lot of time talking about a change that he had to make in life. Have you made a resolution for this year about any type of change or anything you're going to do to be a better person in 2016?
I don't make New Year resolutions.
Okay, you and Dr. Ken.
Yeah, because I think just like computers, they're changing every day. And a lot of times you have to reevaluate yourself daily. Because you may have to make changes daily with how things are rolling. So I don't make that New Year's resolution. I try to change when there's a need for me to be better or to be successful. So as far as with making a resolution, Dr. Streeter, I don't do that.
Well, excuse me.
I change
daily. you have resolved to change as necessary.
as necessary.
Okay, I can take that. I can take that.
Who,
Thank
who's
you.
evaluating you?
Dr. Streeter.
Oh, okay. That's not the answer I was looking for. Okay.
She evaluates herself.
Yeah, hopefully that's
Yeah,
what's going on.
I think
A
that
lot of reflection.
if I'm evaluating her and she's evaluating me, that kind of like cancels it out, right?
Oh, okay.
It cancels it out.
Okay.
So, Mr. Jones, before our last break, we were talking about just who you were before your transition and who you are now. Can you speak to that a little bit more for us?
Yeah, I can. Previously, I guess, a while back, I was, like I said, started off going to 12 schools in 13 years. The dropout, the 1.2 grade point average. Moving around consistently, not having any kind of relationships based on those transitions, it left a whole lot of holes. So just having to figure my way through the certain processes and, just from walking the streets, when you drop out, what do? You're in the
Right.
neighborhoods, just doing different things,
Just hanging out.
just certain elements were involved in that process too. People had put me already in a jail cell. That was just a given, well, with his background,
Right.
he's either be, gangs, drugs, or dead.
Yes.
And a lot of things I did weren't positive, but I know God is in control. Is what it boils down to, because from being around certain people, alcoholics. When I was in second grade, this is one thing that sticks to me really, really close. In the second grade, me, my brother, and another guy went outside one morning to play a game. And you know how you play, we counted each other to see who would be the counter, like hide and go
Okay.
seek.
Okay.
Okay.
And so we got through counting. My friend went and he hid. And another guy went and hid. And I went and hid. And we left one guy counting.
Okay.
And so the guy who was counting stopped, looked around, started walking back and forth. And when he got to a certain when he got to a certain point, an individual jumped out from between these stairways and stabbed him to death right in front of us. And so that was the second grade, and that was my best friend. And so things like that occurred throughout those 12 years from people trying to kill me. So it was being bullied, having to do things that, I was trouble. From calling fire trucks to places to just a lot of crazy stuff. Because I just didn't have any kind of foundation.
Okay.
So I just was learning by trial and error.
Okay.
And so, if I look at how I was until how I am now, to end up coming from the school dropout almost, to being a teacher, getting a bachelor's, master's, from teacher to school administrator to almost completing a doctorate now, to being an author and a business owner,
Right.
is not what I expected. It's
Right.
not what anybody expected. So, but my thing now was to try to help and support other people, and to help them find their whys, and also to give them some kind of guidance, to kind of be that support group that I didn't have myself.
Right.
Because as I was teaching, which was really weird, because as a male going into education, I just assumed that if you see me, at least 5'11", going to an interview to be a teacher, you would put me at the highest grade.
Right, exactly.
That was not the case.
Okay.
Yes, I was the first African American male to teach kindergarten in the county.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So they put me, I
Kindergarten.
was a kindergarten teacher. And see, what happened was that experience it changed me.
Okay.
Because things that I didn't experience growing up, I had a chance to relive it through those kids.
I can see that.
Okay.
So it kind of,
Excellent.
men are more agentic, which means we're more kind of leaders. And the ladies are more communal, which they're group people. And so I had to learn and take on both of those roles as a teacher. The soft side of me, having to not take a male's approach to handling situations, but to take a female's approach in some instances anyway. And so it was, that prepared me not for, really for teaching. It did, but it more so, my thing for education was getting an education to support myself, to start my
Right.
own business.
Right.
So it wasn't more so to get a job, but I want that foundation to start my own thing.
It sounds
And
like
so-
it prepared you for life.
Exactly.
Period.
Yeah.
It prepared you for
It
life.
did. But I took those same situations, those learning opportunities, and applied those things to what I do right now. And that's
Oh, wow.
motivation speaking, that's doing workshops, and so it's those same processes what's needed right now.
Right.
So nothing went to waste. Everything's been utilized. There's no waste. Not at all.
I really, really like what you said, because basically you're describing everybody's cousin Mookie.
Yeah.
Everybody has a cousin, Baby,
Right.
Mookie,
Right.
Wink, all those different
Right.
people who, is hanging out,
Yeah.
hanging around,
Yeah.
getting into trouble,
Yeah.
or, if not getting into trouble, just doing nothing.
Right.
Like nothing every single day.
Right.
And to be able to say, look, we can take this person and you can become whatever it is, because I'm sure that cousin has aspirations too.
Exactly.
At one point they wanted to be a whatever, a
Right.
fireman,
Yes,
Right.
yes.
what was it, fireman, baker, candlestick maker. They wanted to be
Right.
someone and do something and contribute to society.
But at
so,
some point they were discouraged.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
They were discouraged,
Yes.
and they couldn't find, I guess, that spark, to kind of inspire them. And so they
Right.
they chose what option that they actually saw.
Right.
So when you have a limited education, it's limited options. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, and that's the main thing that's the way I see it.
Right.
And so the thing is showing them where they can start right now today. Just take them where they are, give them resources, and let them see that you've been through what they've been through. You don't, like he said earlier, you don't have to go through those things.
Right.
But it does lend more credibility, because
Yes.
you can acknowledge those stages that they're in if you've been through those stages yourself, and know how to tap into them more from a hands-on versus from an analytical side. Well, it's analytical, but
Right.
from more from a hands-on versus
Like practical.
Practical, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, I like that. And when I'm listening to your story and the story of many, many people, I'm sure all of us can point to someone. It takes that charismatic adult
Yes,
who will put
yes.
their hands on you
Yes.
It
and
does.
help
Yes.
you.
It does.
All of us
It
have to
does.
have help.
It does.
And
Yes.
I
It
think
does.
that is the challenge for all of us who feel like, we're doing okay,
Right.
but we're going to make it.
Right.
We have to reach back
Have
and
to.
help. We have to help, because it's very hard to
Yes.
aspire for something if you've never seen it,
Right.
you've never
Absolutely.
heard it,
Right.
you've
Absolutely.
never seen anybody
Right.
else be that way.
Right.
So it's
Right.
kind of hard to even know what's
Right.
out there if
Right.
you've never seen it. So
Right.
that's going to be a challenge
Right.
It is.
to all of us,
Right.
is
Yeah.
to make sure we are reaching backward, forward, to the side, and pulling in not just children.
Right.
It may be
Adults.
adults,
Exactly.
anybody,
Exactly.
anyone who has
Exactly.
lost their way.
Right.
And I know, Felix, you were saying that you were going to have a lot to say about this topic. So tell us some of your thoughts, sir, before we go into our next break.
Hell, you got me on that one. I was
Okay.
enjoying this whole topic actually. But I have a lot of friends that, we all, everybody, I guess when you're going around, you're going to hear someone talk about New Year's resolutions. So the new you, the only thing I can say for me this year, I usually have those, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But I think I'm just going to let it relax. There are a couple of things that I want to change. I'm not going to make it too dramatic. But, you also have that where, you've already committed to certain things. So part of the growth of that commitment is going to take you through ups and downs and not necessarily wanting to change that natural process because I might miss out on something. So I'm just going to let it flow. But someone else earlier mentioned that that you figure out you're going to let some people go.
Yes.
And that's a hard thing, I find.
Is.
It's difficult when you establish relationships and you've outgrown them, or you know that one's not good for you. I think that's the toughest part about my New Year's resolution. And I've traveled a lot. I've lived in a lot of cities, so it's always been a tough subject to say, well, this is the circle I'm going to have this year. So I think that's going to be the rough one for me this year.
And you are, I think, maybe the third or fourth person I've heard just this week talking about how important it is to have people around you who are for you.
A support system.
A support system.
Yes.
And then even talking about once you get the negative people out of the circle, what you have to do to keep them out of the circle. Because they will float back in.
It's easy to let them back in.
Yes, because you're going back to your old ways, which are familiar.
Right.
What were you going to say,
No,
Mr.
there's
Jones?
there's a 3-step process that I utilize too, and it's unfreeze, movement, and refreeze. And in that refreeze stage is when you lock out those old distractions and lock into those positive ones. And so that all plays a part into what he's saying about you have to do it. But that's all part of refreezing phrase.
Right. And they talk about if you do something for 30 days, now it's a habit.
Right.
And I think that's something that we have to try to break these goals up into chunks.
You do.
Instead of saying, I'm going to get rid of this for life, maybe you say, okay, for 30 days, every single day, 30 days, we're going to do this instead of that. And doing that every single day for 30 days to help get that particular behavior ingrained, to lock it in. Because sometimes when we set the goals, they're so big that we become intimidated with our own goals. It's like, my goal is to lose 50 pounds. And I'm thinking, but you got to lose one first. Let's lose that 1 pound first. Because you're like, I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Don't worry about it. You're eating Krispy Kreme donuts. And it's like, well, let's make the first goal is not going to eat Krispy Kreme donuts every day. Let's eat it once a week, and then move up to those. So that's one thing, one concrete thing that we can talk about in terms of, being a new you is setting realistic goals that you can reach.
Absolutely.
And you can lock it in, then freeze out the bad stuff, lock it back down again.
And the last thing, one more thing. The last thing too is Confucius has a quote, and he says, "The men who move mountains begin by moving very small stones." And so it kind of boils down to setting those chunks, doing things in increments, smaller increments.
Yes.
So.
Very, very. That is very true. And that is bringing us to our 4-point star. And our 4-point star basically encompasses all of those W questions. Who? Say it with me. Who? What? When? And where? Let's say that again. Who? What? When? And where? So, the number one, who? Who do you want to be? That is the question you have to ask yourself. Because in order to become a new you, you have to know the you you're trying to get to. Who do you want to be? And that is something that you have to think about seriously. And specifically, what type of person do you want to be? Where do you how do you want to look? How do you want to think? How do you want to act? So that's your first step, is to figure out, who do you want to be? Then what do you want to do? Because a lot of times we don't know who we want to be, and we certainly don't know what we want to do.
Right.
I know every time, or even what we're doing. Have you called somebody, hey, what are you doing? Man, just chilling. That is the worst answer ever.
It is.
I'm like, what is that? So, next, when? When are you going to get started? Don't suffer from one of the deadly D's, delay.
Yeah.
When are you going to get started on the process to making this new you? And then lastly, where do you want to end up? Where do you, once you get started, where do you want to end up? And then I would couple that with, where do you want to be, in what time frame?
Yes, yes. Right.
In what time frame do you want to get there? So these are the questions you need to ask yourself. Who do you answer for yourself? Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? When are you going to get started? And where do you want to end up? And I believe you should write those down, really think about it, and answer those questions, maybe over the course. It may take you some months, and some people, it may take them some years to really know who they want to be. Because think about this, when you go to college and you have to choose your major, part of that question is, who do you want to be? I didn't know who I wanted to be until graduation day.
You and me both.
I majored in English because I thought, I speak English, I should do well. So that is a question that is very important, although it seems like it's an easy question. But really you have to kind of search your mind for who do you want to be, and then what do you want to do. That's also another college major question, because a lot of people, they major in something, but that's not what they want to do.
Right, exactly.
That's not what they want to do. You say, well, who do you want to be? Well, I want to be a doctor. Okay, well, what do you want to do? Because, doctors cut on people and blood. And, oh, no, I don't want to do that. Well, then I don't think you can be that, So you really have to think about those particular things. And then when are you going to get started? And we've already talked about how the earlier you start with a change, the better. People in their 20s, it was more like 47% of them actually go through with their resolutions. Once you get over 50, that number goes way down to 14%. Now, that doesn't mean that just because you're older, you cannot change.
No, it doesn't mean
But I think you need to understand the challenges that you face.
Sacrifices.
Yeah, because you get those bad habits ingrained. So now you may have to unlearn some things and then relearn or learn some new behaviors. So that is our 4-point star for today. Give me a hand. Yeah. So any thoughts about our 4-point star?
The Bible talks about how important it is for us to train up a child in the way it should be, and when it's old, it will not depart. Now, I know we're not talking about children, but children here in the original translation mean mature, talking about maturity more than a child. And I think we hadn't trained or haven't been trained to think, when it comes to those points. And we still can start with our children if you want to do that, training them some discipline, et cetera, et cetera. And I know a lot of times we as a race, we hadn't been disciplined as much as we should. I'm not talking physical discipline, to my discipline enough to say you don't have to get full every time you sit at the table.
Yes.
You don't have to, I was raised with that full. Right. You full, you full, you full.
Right. Exactly.
And then when I'm 400 pounds, then you say, you got too full. Then
right.
You don't always have to take a box home. You can leave it. You know?
Exactly.
You don't always have to do that. But that comes with discipline.
Right.
And it goes back to what I said earlier with I don't do the resolution. I just make some changes in my mind. And when you do that, I'm telling you, purifying and consecrating, your mind just open, and especially with me being a prophet, I have to keep my mind open to things because I can get clogged down certain meats I don't eat, but I ain't getting into that because I don't want to turn this to a religious thing. But my point is, but I don't for a reason. It ain't. It's not a religious reason. It's a reason I think different without it in me than I do with it. And let me get out there because I'm gonna stay there too long.
Okay.
But my point is, it's important to train yourself.
Yes.
In whatever it is, to discipline yourself. It's okay to talk to yourself. I'm sorry, psychologist, and answer yourself. No,
Yes.
you're not. You can't have another piece of cake. Okay,
Yes.
I won't.
There you go. There you go.
I'm serious, and I have to do that.
As long as you know that you've stated the question,
Yes,
and as
absolutely.
long as you know that you've answered,
It was me,
You're
yeah.
okay.
Not a
okay.
third person.
Yeah, when you think somebody else is, that's when
That's
you have
when
the
the problem
problem. That's
comes.
when the problems
I know,
occur.
I know.
Anybody else? Anything else on the 4-point star?
On
Yes.
the who, I think the who involves you doing a lot of reflecting, a lot of reflecting, and trying to look at your life and figure out where you've come from.
Yes.
Because a lot of times when you start to peeling yourself apart like an onion, you start to realize that you are made of like certain ingredients. Some of those things may be you being able to become extremely. Let's guess another way of putting it. You may be able to withstand a lot of doubt. I guess is another way of putting it.
Criticism.
A lot of criticism, yeah. And if you can withstand that criticism, you can kind of, like I said, go to encouraging yourself. You can also go to being able to assist others and kind of getting over what they're doing. But that who is, it goes back to finding your why.
Yes.
Once you find that why, it's just, you can bust down really any door because that why opens you up.
Yes.
So but it takes you utilizing the resources to really find out who you are, and it takes you also having people to let you know what they see in you also.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
a lot of times we can think that we are a certain way to ourselves, but when we've been evaluated, it's something totally different. And are you willing to accept what you see?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
true.
So you got to put the two together.
Right, or take the criticism in a
Constructive.
constructive way
Exactly.
and use it to become who you want to be.
Exactly.
If you're not who you want to be.
Exactly.
So wow, yes.
Exactly.
Wow, good. Anything else? Because I want to get to this Dr. K's yays and nays.
I do too.
Okay, so we're now there. Dr. K, how does the no contact rule work in relationships? I am in love with a woman and she wants no contact until my divorce is final. Needing assistance with respecting her wishes. Don't want to be needy or clingy. If I contact her, am I disrespecting her wishes, being needy and or clingy? Yay or nay? Yay or nay? So I'll start with the people who are live right here because I got comments from others in social media, and we'll get to what they're saying. But anybody here?
Read that
yay
question
or
one
nay?
more time,
Okay.
Dr. Streeter.
Okay. I'll read the whole thing. Dear Dr. K, how does the no contact rule work in relationships? I am in love with a woman and she wants no contact until my divorce is final. Needing assistance with respecting her wishes. Don't want to be needy or clingy. If I contact her, am I disrespecting her wishes, being needy and or clingy? Yay or nay?
Well, first of all, his divorce needs to be final before he goes out to seek any type of relationship with anyone. So I think that's why it's so hard for him to make a decision or to accept that young lady's wishes because he hasn't cleaned up his closet yet.
Ooh.
So his closet needs to be cleaned before he can provide another woman happiness, fulfill her needs and wants or whatever he's trying to do.
Okay.
And if you're in love with someone and that person loves you, I think two people can take into consideration each other's wishes
Right. Exactly.
and work it out. But
Okay.
first of all, he needs to, number one, clean up his closet first.
Okay, so you're saying, yay, if he contacts her, he's disrespecting her
Well-
her wishes.
the confusing part is, did he say no?
No contact
No.
until his divorce is final.
No contact.
Right.
Well, no contact.
Okay.
It's just that plain and simple.
No
Meaning, if you're serious about this lady,
Uh-huh.
go ahead and get your stuff straight. It doesn't
Right.
take a rocket scientist to figure that out.
Randa's
You-
rough.
I know.
She's
I
like-
sat here with her.
Okay. We're going to take this
Okay.
caller, then we're going to get back to you because we don't want to scare the caller away. Hi, caller. You're on the couch with Dr. K. Do you have a question or a comment? Did you scare the person away? Hi, caller. You have a question or a comment?
Are you there?
Did we? Oh,
See
caller.
what you done did?
Randa scared the caller
I'm
away.
joking.
So,
Okay.
caller, please, if we won't
Please
bite,
call
please
back,
call
caller.
back.
Please.
Because we'll go with whatever you had to say. So let's hear what some of our social media friends had to say. Milton Jones says, "Yay, patience is the key. Tie up one shoe at a time.
Yes.
Rushing is going to uninterest the woman, and women don't like to be rushed. LOL." What do we think about that?
You know, I'm just anxious to jump in here and just
Right.
go swimming.
Go swimming. Go swimming.
The I'm in love just threw me off when you
Yes.
posted the I'm in love.
Yes.
How did you fall in love with somebody before? How did you get in love at first? How
Right.
did that even happen? And you can't contact them? What did you do? See a picture on Facebook of how fine she was? She might be 10,000 pounds. How did you
Some
fall?
10,000-pound people might be fine.
The love threw me off, seriously.
Right, exactly.
So it's hard for me to answer the rest of it until I get this. How did you fall in love?
Some detail.
Yeah, some detail.
Yeah.
It wasn't detailed enough for me because I've been on this show 3-4 times, and I just know I'm big on being proactive. You know, in dating. I think you should date anywhere from 2 to 3 years, depending on how long, especially when it being divorced. How long is the divorce? And I've been divorced before. It don't take 10 years to get divorced. You can do it in
Yeah.
6 months if you
Yeah,
want it done
3,
like
I
that.
thought.
Yeah. Well, you can do as low as 3, depending on what you
Yeah.
got.
Yeah.
Children and stuff are kind of procrastinated a little bit, but it's hard to answer because I don't have a yay or nay. I'm just saying, how did you get in love? I want to know that. That's what I want to know. How did you get in love? Because if I fell in love, I done had a whole lot of contact with you. I ain't saying nothing.
Yeah, a
Let me quit before I
whole
open
lot.
my mouth. I done talked enough.
Oh my goodness! Well,
How did the love
know,
get in there?
this is it's not a back and forth conversation. It is a answering of what we were given, and that's the
Okay.
I
information
know
we were given.
that. I
I
know that.
Well, let's hear what Jamie has to say. Jamie Lynch says, "She is right, and you need to respect her wishes." Period. That's how Jamie feels. So,
Okay.
what are our thoughts about? He sounds like Randa. Randa's don't take a rocket science. She is like, you need to just be really cut and dry about it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Jones, what are your thoughts?
It's kind of getting close to stalking if you start
That's
to
what
call
I
her.
was
You know,
thinking
so
too.
she says leave
I
alone,
agree.
leave alone.
Yeah,
You know what
I
I
was
mean?
thinking that too.
So it just respect her wishes is what it boils down to. Because when you start crossing that line, it gets really complicated.
Right.
You know, so play
Right.
it safe, leave alone.
Okay. Well, Stanley Hayward says, oh, he's just wishing us a Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Stanley.
Tanya Dickey Terrell says, I'm so lost on this one, Dr. K. You mean you're concerned about disrespecting the person who is trying to honor your marriage and avoid that bad karma? Well, I'm just curious. If you're as interested in not forsaking your vows and disrespecting your marriage by saying you're already in love with someone else, which disrespect is a priority? So, wow. Okay. So it sounds like what she's saying is you're being disrespectful here, period, by saying, number one, you're in love with somebody and you're married. And then number two, you're saying you're trying to be respectful of this other woman, but it is other woman. So it's just disrespectful all the way around. That's what I'm gathering from what
That
she's
makes sense.
saying is, oh, so you're trying to make it seem like you're being so respectful. She's saying which disrespect is a priority.
And Dr. K,
Yes, ma'am.
from actually thinking about that statement, I'm wondering, did he make some type of contact with this lady and not let her know that he was married? And after she found out, she said, don't call me no more, or get back with me when your stuff is straight.
That's a good point because he's in love.
Because he's saying he's in love.
That's
so
right.
something
Something had
went
to take
on
place. Exactly.
that he's not exactly saying to
Right.
protect himself
Right.
and to protect
that
her.
young lady.
And because he was not honest at the very beginning, it had to get to a point where he fell in love. The young lady may have fallen in love too, but she had enough common sense to say, hold up, get back. You know,
Right.
get your things
Right.
cleared out.
Right.
And then maybe we can start up a conversation, or we can start back or begin something new.
And that sounds very plausible, Randa, but we do not know that
No,
for sure.
no, we
So I
don't.
don't want to, because please, if you have dilemmas, send them in to us so that we can answer and put some details in there. We're not going to give away your identity. But we just don't know, because I do believe that she could be a coworker.
That's
And he
true.
watches her every day, and he's watched her for years, and now he's fallen in love, and maybe there was no hanky-panky. We don't
That's
know.
true.
And
But Dr. Street, I didn't say hanky panky.
okay.
I'm just saying there was some type of communication somewhere for this person to get to a point to say that he's in love. It doesn't mean that they've
Hanky-panky.
had some type of hanky-pankiness going on. It means that there was some type of communication where this person, this guy, was able to get into a situation where he could actually truly say, I have fallen in love.
And maybe she came into his life when he was at that the bottom.
Yes.
Yeah, vulnerable.
Exactly.
Yes,
That
real
vulnerable.
vulnerable.
Yeah.
That's what it
Yes.
sounds
Right,
like.
that's what I was thinking.
Yes.
Yeah. I said
Thank
it-
you for reaching over to your softer side.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
vulnerable.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why when you're going through divorce,
Right.
you go through a whole lot of crazy
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
in your-
Emotional
in your
swings,
head.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming back hard again. That
fall in love
eternal
with
Noel says, she says, bottom line, yay, you are disrespecting her wishes. You are still married, get a divorce and try later. Boom. So
That's
the
it.
women are like cut
Cutthroat.
and dry
Yeah.
with this. They're like, look, sir.
Well, it's time out, Dr. Streeter, in trying not to be honest. A lot of times you win when you're honest. Not saying that you're hurting somebody's feelings, but when you're honest, it just makes things better. You don't have to
yes.
go back and cover up, change stuff around, rearrange it, and all of that type of stuff. From what Mrs. Maddie Turner Noel just said, it's just a simple statement.
Right.
Even though we may not like a simple statement, or we may not like the truth, it just makes things easier.
Well, I'm going to read what you said on social media, Dr. Ken. You said, I'm kind of the person with the questions that will help me answer the questions. First, you say that you are in love with her. How did that happen with this rule in place? Now, I'm assuming that the rule was in place up front and you didn't guard your heart. Second, does she know how you feel? Third, how does she feel about you? Is this about celibacy, or is it really about the finalization of your divorce? I like
Afraid
that.
of being alone.
Yeah. Is this about, she's saying, look, we're not hanky-pankying until you get this divorce, or, what's the real issue here? And it sounds like, this was a pretty, simple question, but there's a lot of really delicate nuances to this situation, because when I saw it, I was like, I just knew my answer right up front. But then when I saw some of your questions that you were asking, and I thought more about it, and I always feel like all of our listeners and people who write in are good people
Yes,
because
yes.
they're asking the questions.
Yes,
Usually,
yes,
sociopaths and bad people, they're not asking any
Right,
questions.
right.
They're just
They're good.
acting. They're
Right,
like, I'm
right,
good.
right,
Everything's
right,
Gucci.
right.
You know, so I feel like by asking this question, it shows that you are being contemplative,
Yes,
that you're
yes,
thinking it
yes.
through, and
Right.
you really have
Right.
a dilemma here. Yes, Randa.
I was just gonna say, and he obviously cares.
Yes, he obviously cares about this person. So,
And I wasn't making light of his feelings.
Yes.
Even though I said what I said.
Right.
And I say it everywhere I go, and I've said it here before. I'm big on the accountability that came out of everybody's mouth.
Right.
And I think every man and every woman, at least 21 and older, should have somebody that they answer to.
Yes.
Some human being that can get in their face and say it however they want to. And I would say to this person, because we want to try to help him, even though
Right.
we're having
Right.
fun with this. If there's if wouldn't being a man, he needs an older man, preferably that could get in his face. I could, ministers, life coaches are good, but if you have a father, grandfather, uncle, somebody who's gonna be real with you, like the young people say, keep it 100 with you.
Yeah.
Share
no,
it
it's
with them.
100.
Yeah, I know 100. My bad. Okay, so and share, and bring him back to earth.
Yes.
With some of these things, because I have
Right.
3 men in my life that I call on a weekly basis because I get in one of these little crazy moves I get, and I be want to know, is this the right way to think about this? And they gonna say, man, you know better than that. I need him in my
Yeah.
life.
Now, what if he
I-
doesn't? What if he doesn't have that?
Well, if he doesn't have that, he needs to seek the guidance of a pastor or a life coach. Of course, I'm available. You told me
He
that.
did seek some guidance. He wrote to Dr. K.
Oh, yeah.
That's one. That's one resource.
That's one resource.
I love to have him on our couch.
Yes,
so we can
exactly.
really ask him some questions off the air so
Yes.
we can try to guide him in that. Because I'm 100% against, people cheating outside of their marriage and relationship, even if you're separated. Because
Right.
I've been, like I said, I've been divorced before. It don't take long to get it over with if you're serious.
If
You know,
you're
a lot of times
serious.
when they prolong it, it's because they hoping it work out. Nobody wants to say that. That's what it is. Come on, 5 years and you still not divorced? Something ain't right.
Because
It's not
some
the
people
money.
say you can go online now and get a divorce.
I'll be scared of that one. But anyway, you can go online and be a preacher and everything else. I don't know if I want to marry me.
Right, exactly. And there's a lot going on here. I'm going to read this question again, and then I'm going to give my answer.
Okay.
Dr. K, how does the no contact rule work in relationships? How does the no contact rule work in relationships? I am in love with a woman and she wants no contact until my divorce is final. Needing assistance with respecting her wishes. Don't want to be needy or clingy. If I contact her, am I disrespecting her wishes? Being needy and or clingy, yay or nay? Well, my answer is almost similar to yours because I do think communication is the key.
Yes.
If you are confused by what she's saying, because at first I was going to say, yes, you are, you're not being respectful of her wishes, you are being needy and clingy, and you should not contact her at all until it's over. But I also know that sometimes people say one thing, but their
Their actions.
meaning is something else.
Yes.
Their meaning is something else because she could mean like, well, don't talk to me until your divorce is final, but you can send me some flowers and let me know that you're working on it. I don't know what she means. The best bet is to ask her
Yes.
what she means.
Yes.
Right.
And then
Yes.
that way you will know for sure
Absolutely.
what she means.
Okay.
And I think listener, that one thing you have to think about too is now, because in order for you to ask her, that's contact. So you have to figure out when she said that, did she mean no contact
Exactly.
whatsoever?
Exactly.
And I don't know in what context she said this, whether you two were fighting at the time, whether her heart was hurt, or whether she was just being matter of fact and you two were having a conversation. And so, those things are things that you would have to take into consideration. But if I were you, I would ask,
Yes.
tell me exactly what you mean by no contact. And it also sounds like, if you're in love with this woman maybe you need to, because we talked about how you get to a new you, and when you get divorced, you're a new you. You might want to put some dates and some timelines to this.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Because if
I
you're in
agree.
love, and maybe if she is too,
Right.
you're afraid to lose that. And I understand, and I'm not being judgmental by how you got to being in love.
Right.
But being in love is a wonderful thing. And so you want to put some dates to this divorce thing. Even if you don't get a chance to contact her.
Right. Exactly.
You need to put some dates
Yes.
to this divorce thing so
Yes.
that you're moving along, so that even if you cannot have any contact with her until it's final, it won't be so long.
Right.
That's correct.
So that's my
That's
answer.
good. I like that.
I like that, Dr.
All
K.
right, I know I got my degree for some.
Sound like it was a little experience in
Just
that
as
too. I just kind of feel
Hey, some as a woman, you have to send some husbands back to their wives. And be like,
Yeah.
look, sir,
Yeah.
I know your wife is sitting at home waiting on you. Go to her.
Yes.
I don't want nobody else's husband.
That's it.
You know
Yes.
something,
That's
Dr. K?
Yes,
you know,
ma'am.
dealing with this subject, I bet it's very hard for like police officers and firemen because they have partners. Like, say, for instance,
Yeah.
there's a female and male partner,
Yeah.
and you
Oh,
all
wow.
are together
All of
all
the
day.
time.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
develop and know
Yeah.
each other's
Uh-huh.
habits.
Yeah.
You're there when
Yeah.
that person is going through
Everything.
misery, just everything. So it really has to be, I'm thinking it really has to be hard for them, just
Yes.
thinking that
Yes.
what if that person is a police officer?
Yeah, yeah. You just never know.
And they ride in a car every day.
Yeah.
And he's able to tell this lady about
Yes.
all of his problems.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there looking at her and saying, man, why did I marry you? You
Yeah.
know?
She has all the
So-
answers.
Yeah.
She has
Yeah.
all the answers.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's why I was saying we have to. It's so easy to have that knee-jerk reaction of being critical,
Yeah.
but
Judgmental.
judgmental,
Yeah.
critical, and
Yeah.
you shouldn't do this. But then if you roll it back around, there's always these shades of gray
Yes.
where we
Right.
have to use compassion,
Right.
Yeah.
and then we
Yes.
have to try to eliminate the criticism and really get to the issue, which is this is a
Yes.
person who obviously cares about another person,
Yes,
and they
yes.
want to do the right thing. So
Yeah.
hopefully, listener, from all of that, you were able to glean what your next step will be. And if you out there, if you have any type of dilemma or question for Dr. K's Yays and Nays, you may messenger me on Facebook at Dr. K on the Couch. You may also email it to me at onthecouchwithdr.k@gmail.com. Is that correct? Yay! Okay. We have talked about switching over to doing new things, being a new person, new habits, and we've talked about how to do that, breaking things down, having an accountability partner, speaking with other people, knowing when to take certain people out of your group and locking them out, and then also knowing when to bring people in and
Yeah,
getting
absolutely,
help.
absolutely.
You know, that's also important. We've talked
Absolutely.
about prioritizing things and writing them down and doing a little bit of something
Right.
every day. So these are some tactics we all can use as we are trying to become that new us, that new you for the new year. Because if you change one thing about yourself, you're a different person.
Yeah.
You're
Right.
different from
Yes.
who you were
Right.
the day before. So it's not as big as it seems. Just you can just change one thing. Maybe if you are a negative person, maybe you say, you know what? I'm going to start giving 3 compliments a day
Okay.
Right.
and sticking to it.
Right.
And you will slowly over time, you'll start to see how you'll start seeing things differently because now you've changed. That means
Yeah.
people are going to react to you differently.
Absolutely.
And everything changes. It's like
Right.
throwing a pebble into a pond, you're
Ripple
going to see
effect,
that
right.
ripple effect of that change. So it can be done,
Yes.
and it can be done at any time. Even though our stats and facts say best to do it in your 20s, you can do it at any age. At any age, you just have to put your mind to it, and then you'll be able to do it. So we are going to talk about tonight's technique, because we always like to leave you with something practical you can actually do, so that you can put some of the theories that we talked about in our conversation tonight or any night into play. So tonight's technique is called write, seek, and speak.
Okay.
Write, seek, and speak. So when you are trying to make a change, the first thing you need to do is write down your goals.
Absolutely.
Write it down. It's very, very, very important. Write it down. Studies show that just writing it down, that doubles your chances of actually
Absolutely.
meeting that goal. Were you going to say
Absolutely.
something?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I went a little bit farther than that. I actually drew my goals out.
Oh,
I drew
like a
pictures
vision
out.
board.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Drew a
Okay.
picture out,
Yes.
stick them on
Yes.
the Bible, and those things came to pass too. They
Oh,
really did,
yes.
Because I kept
They
focusing
did.
on.
Yes,
So-
and what you focus on, that's what grows.
Exactly. And I do the same thing with the vision for my family is on the refrigerator. You're going to see it
Oh,
every day. That's one of the
Right.
things that
Right.
we do as well. So.
Cool.
Okay.
So, write. The next one is seek. Seek an accountability partner. Seek someone that you can actually bounce some ideas off, someone who's going to ask you about those goals you have written down, because you're going to need to speak. Speak those goals out loud.
Yes.
When you
Yes.
write it down and then you find somebody and you speak it out loud,
Yeah.
now you have gotten this close,
Absolutely.
much closer to
Right.
actually
Right.
meeting those
Absolutely.
goals, and it
Right.
does work.
It does.
does work.
It
It
works,
does
it
work.
works, it works. There's a lot of power in what we say.
Yes.
And a
yes.
lot of times we don't pay attention,
Yes.
because sometimes we're making some goals and writing them down, and they're negative and they're
Yes.
anti-life for us, and we don't
Yeah.
even realize we're
Right.
saying it.
Exactly right.
Exactly. But we
You
can
know.
write those
Yep.
down.
Yeah, but we
Those
don't.
one-
Yeah, we don't
that-
write them down,
no,
but then,
not
but
those.
we're speaking them out into the
Not the
universe.
negatives.
You know,
Right.
so you want to write down the positives.
Yes,
So
yes.
that's what I want us to do. That's tonight's technique, and it won't take you that long, even if you wrote it down right now, and then you went to the person next to you and you actually stated what your goal is. So we're going to do that right now. So I'd like for everybody just to write down just one goal, or think about it, or write it in your phone, or however you want to do it.
Mm-hmm. I have a goal, Dr. Streeter, but do I have to say it?
If you don't want to share, you don't have to share,
Okay.
Randa.
Okay.
Okay, so hopefully you've written your goal down. Now, seek. You're going to find somebody in this room that you're going to tell your goal to. Hopefully it's me, so that we can hear it on the air. And then next, speak. Speak out your goal. So I will state my goal, and I'm seeking you, Randa, and I'm going to speak what it is right now. So my goal is to lose 10 pounds this year. That's my goal. So I'm speaking that out to you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for listening.
But that's a great goal.
That's a goal. That's a goal.
great
That's
goal.
something I have to do.
I mean,
And-
which is going to make other people want to join the bandwagon.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to do that little by little. Number one, I'm going to exercise every day
Okay.
for 30 minutes before I go to bed. That's number one.
Okay.
And number two, I am cutting my portions in half.
Okay.
So I think just with those two things, that will get me very far.
But I think you've done that. You know, you've started cutting the portions.
Well, yeah, shut up. Yeah,
What?
because I was trying to pick a goal that I knew I could reach. And I thought, let me pick one I'm
No,
currently
I'm
doing.
not saying you.
Yes,
You've
yes.
been doing it. I've noticed it within the week.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you? Well,
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate that.
When we've gone out to eat, you know,
Yeah.
let's share. Okay.
Okay.
So anybody else want to share their goal?
Yeah, my goal is to become more visible on social media.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Different avenues.
Okay. And any particular tactics you have for doing that?
YouTube videos.
Oh,
YouTube
okay.
videos and Twitter. But the
Okay.
main avenue is YouTube videos.
YouTube videos. Okay. Very, very
think
good.
that'll be
Dr.
great.
Kent.
My goal this year is I want to help at least 3 people start their own businesses.
Oh,
I want to help
okay.
them do that. I'm big on giving back, and I've been doing it on a smaller scale. And the excuse I have because I don't have the time. But I'm gonna make the time. I have
Right.
2 already who's pulling on me to do that.
Okay.
And I'm gonna stretch myself and go ahead and get 3 people up and going.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
I like that. So that is tonight's technique. And I hope you at home, you actually did that with us. It's called Write, Seek, and Speak. Write down your goals and how you're going to get there. Seek an accountability partner. And then speak your goals into existence. Yay! Very, very, very good. Very good. So, before we move on to our 10 seconds to shine, because we are quickly running out of time, as we always do, any last comments about Dr. K's yays and nays, or about our topic, brand new you, why you need to change and how to get there? Any last things that you want to say about either one of those?
Well, as far as with your yays and nays,
Uh-huh.
you're giving people a chance to ask questions that they need answers to from a respectable or credible source.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Okay?
Thank you.
A lot of times people seek information or seek for answers, but they're seeking it from the wrong place. And they never grow, or they never transform, or it just ends up they're back in the same situation that they were trying to get out of. So your yays and nays are very, very helpful, Dr. K.
Thank you. And you know, what you said makes me think you have to really, when you are seeking some real advice, you have to get outside of your circle.
Yes.
Because a lot of times the people in your circle are just going to co-sign.
Absolutely
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
You know, you're
Absolutely
like,
right.
well, I think I need to go throw a brick in his car.
Girl, I would do it
girl,
too. I
think-
did it last week. I threw 3 bricks.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have that
Right.
outside voice that
Absolutely.
goes, have you thought that through? You know, you need
wanna
that
go to jail.
outside voice
Right.
to really help you. So thank thank you, Randa.
The radical Rand.
Okay, so Mr. Jones,
Yeah.
what do you have to say?
I think going back to the need to change, I think that if you look at the benefits of change, it often involves a lot of growth that's taking place. So I think it's good advice for everybody to see changing because you're constantly growing.
Yes.
It's a growth curve taking place at that point. So
Definitely.
constantly change.
And Dr. Brewer.
Okay. Talking about being new in the year, a lot of things going through my mind. But I want to encourage everyone, whatever you do, resolutions, whatever, be consistent in it. Like we've said, do the accountability. You need somebody to help push you, that kind of thing. Encourage yourself. Know that you can do it. Separate yourself from people who don't. A lot of times when they don't believe in you, it's because they don't believe in themselves. That's where that really comes from. And last but not least, know that God loves you and love on you. I love me,
I
man.
sure do. I love me
I
too.
love me some me. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And I'm not saying it in an arrogant way because I know the Bible talks about love. Let us love one another for love's God. It's hard for me to love you when I don't even love me, and that's what we're seeing in our world today with the killings and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. Because it's obvious you don't love you, that you can take a life and then take another life. That's love on you.
Yes.
The more you love you, those goals really will become attainable. Make sure you're doing it for you too. Let me throw that in there. It's not the
Yes,
same. Loving you
exactly.
and doing it for you. Because
Yes.
if you're doing it to get the attention of some man, he probably gonna be out get somebody to find you anyway. So just do it for you.
Do it for you.
Yeah.
That is so true. And I really
That's
like what
true.
you said about the self-love, because if you can't love yourself, the reason why you can't love somebody else is because everybody is a reflection of everybody else.
Absolutely.
So if I don't like
Absolutely.
me, but then you like me, then I'm not going to like you.
No.
Because you like me, and obviously you're wrong.
Wrong. Yeah. Isn't this crazy?
You know, it's so crazy. Yeah.
And then also in the process of changing, the ones around you who know the old you,
Yes.
they're going to try to constantly pull you back to that old mindset.
Oh,
So that's
for
so
sure.
that's the whole
Absolutely.
part of change
Yes.
yourself.
Yeah.
So
And you know what, that is so true. Like even about my weight loss, because I have to do it for health reasons. I got to do it, period. And one thing, and I started losing a little weight, and as soon as it's noticeable, people around you start saying, "Girl, you don't need to lose no more
Right.
weight.
That's what they say.
You, honey, you fine now." And I
Right.
was like, yes, I do. Let me show the BMI
Right.
index says
Right.
I need to
I need
lose
to.
weight.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah.
you really have to stick to your guns
Yes,
because
yes,
they
you do.
will bring you back to that other side.
Yes.
And you have to remember how hard it is because those old behaviors are comfortable.
Right.
Like, you know,
Right.
you want somebody to say, "Girl, you don't need to lose no more weight," so you can go right over to Krispy Kreme. Be like, she's right, you know. And
yeah.
so you have to realize that's those negative
Yep.
forces out
Exactly.
there
Energy.
trying to distract you
Exactly.
and delay you from
Exactly.
getting to where you need to be. So
Absolutely.
you got to hold fast to the goals that you set for yourself.
That's
I
good.
really like that. Wow, it's 7:23. Woo, okay. Now it's time. 10 seconds to shine. We've all been shining. But we're going to move on around. And in your 10 seconds to shine, everybody gets that here at On the Couch with Dr. K. And this is your chance to say whatever you want to say about anything. So we're going to start with you, Dr. Kenny Brewer, life coach for life. 10 seconds to shine.
All right, thank you. Let me again thank you, Dr. K, for the open door to come
Yes,
and share
thank you
on this
so much.
platform. I just enjoy talking to people, I enjoy ministering to people, and this coming year, I'm just expecting God to do great things in this year. I'm not, my expectation is so high that I just see money all over the place.
Oh,
Okay.
That's the
I need to give it
prophetic.
your expectation.
I'm talking about unexpected stuff that you
Yes,
didn't
I
expect,
like
and
that.
I really want to speak that over the lives of those that are listening to us today. And God bless you this year.
All right. Good. Like that. Like that. Okay. Mr. Isaac Jones, 10 seconds to shine.
Yeah, I just
sir.
want the listeners to understand that your background prepares you for and not prevents you from. So this year in your change, just understand it is you're ready. You're already ready for it.
Wow.
And I could be contacted at isaacjones.net. That's ISSAC Jones.net.
Okay. $20.
$20.
All
I
right.
got you.
Okay. Yes. And so they can contact you there to get this book if
Yes,
they would
ma'am.
like. Great.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. In the Ring with Randa.
Well, Dr. K, once again, great subject, and you make it easy for people to want to ask for help.
Oh, thank you.
Today, I asked her, I said, Dr. K, I need you to help me. And she was like, what? I need you to make sure I'm doing my exercises for my leg and my foot because it seems like I have plateaued and I need to make some more improvements because it's not where it should be.
Right.
So
that's your goal.
that's my goal. But I've come to a place in my life where I know my weaknesses and I know when I need help or assistance. And I'm not afraid to ask for it. And I just want to give a shout out to you, Dr. Streeter,
Well,
for
thank you.
helping not just me, but helping everybody
Yes.
with this show, with your subjects and everything else that comes along with it.
Thank you. And yes, I do pay her. Thank you.
That'll be $100.
That's all.
Okay.
And
Anything else?
last
Yes.
thing, man, and I truly want to give you my appreciation for inviting me to come in and speak to as well.
Oh,
I appreciate
great.
that. This has
And
been a
we're-
wonderful show.
Good,
I appreciate it. You all
good.
are lovely. I appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank all of you for coming because this is the show. It's all of us here together, and thank you, listeners, for sending in your
Yes,
dilemmas and
yes.
everything that you say on social media because that's what makes it. You know, we all have a little expert inside of us, and even
Right.
if our own expert can't speak to us, it can speak to somebody else.
Exactly.
So thank all of you, thank everyone here, and as always in parting, I wish you a life full of love, peace, and happiness. Remember, if you can't be in love, then at least try to be happy. If you can't be happy, then at least try to be peaceful. But when your peace has been disturbed, it's time for you to change your situation. Good night. We'll see you on the radio next time. You've been listening to On the Couch with Dr. K here at 98.5 New Mix FM. Remember to like us on Facebook and go to our brand new website, onthecouchwithdrk.com. Good show, everybody.
Lord, that happened. Lord, that happened.
Can you fall out of love overnight?
Yes, I can fall out of love overnight.
Okay.
Because she says she don't love me, I don't love her. Ain't no need of being in love with her. She ain't in love with you because you're going to be stalking her.
Okay.
Sitting outside her house, trailing her, going to church looking for her.
Right.
Then she might be with another man you going to clown.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
you might well let it go.
Okay.
It's easy to fall out of love.
Ooh. So, how do you do that, though? Because I hear what you're saying.
You just go get somebody else.
Oh, so you have
It's
a
easy.
diversion.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
a lot of lonely women out there.
Oh, so if you are a woman, you have to hope that you're not the diversion that he has chosen to get over somebody else. Okay.
Not the bounce back shit.
So you get a rebound.
Yeah, or you're gonna have a spare tire anyway.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
In case of emergency.
Okay.
Like
So,
AAA.
so ladies, you have to hope that you're not the flat tire, nor are you the rebound. Okay. Let me hear from a lady.
Wrong